Info Edge that he's bought at 4,700 rupees per share. He wants to know what's the 6 months prospects for this particular counter. Kunal, how is Info Edge placed, given that now Zomato IPO also is coming out and they will be going ahead with OFS in Zomato IPO as well? But how is Info Edge on the charts looking like for the next 6 months?
Cheryl, on the charts, the stock has done phenomenally well in the last 5-6 years, from 2014 to 2013 somewhere. I think the stock has gone through a different tangent altogether. Even on the current last 12 months, it's showed its strength, it showed its character, the way the stock has moved up significantly higher. So I think this is the hallmark of a stock which is indicating that it's something to watch out from more longer term perspective. So these are not the kind of stocks which you should look for short term trading, but these are the kind of stocks which you should have it as a part of your long term portfolio. I would recommend a buy in Info Edge even at current levels, and if there are any corrections which come along the way, specifically if they are of the tune of 10 to 15% at least on the charts.
Okay, we've got another question coming in from Anup Kumar. He's holding 40 shares of Marico at 368 and will be doing an SIP in this for the long term, and suggesting or asking whether this is the right way to go about it. Ashish, what's the view on this?
Marico, being a leader in whichever the segment they operate, FMCG is always a good buy. But only thing is, this requires certain amount of patience, because FMCG stocks takes time to build up a story, build up brands, build up profitability, etc. So if you're having 2-3 year horizon, surely you don't have any downside risk from 400 rupees level. And my view is that going forward, their earning will also see more strengthening, like how we have seen good earning improvement from even September to December quarter. This quarter is again going to be good quarter for Marico as far as quarterly performance is concerned. But in long run, if you are having 3-year time horizon, you can expect around 30% kind of ROI.
Your query is coming in from an email query, and this is from Lakshman, saying that he has 500 shares of Lakshmi Organics, which is purchased at 190 rupees per share. He wants to know what's the long-term prospects of this particular counter. He intends to hold this for the next 2 to 3 years. Ashish, what's your view on Lakshmi Organics? Currently, the counter is trading at around 212 rupees per share.
Yes, the kind of response they got from their IPO, if you see, still the stock is quite underpriced. In my view, still it has a long way to go, because first of all, whichever the segment they are operating in chemical space, they are the market leaders, as well as in Indian, as far as context is concerned, they hold very significant market share of those chemicals. So my suggestion will be to remain invested surely for 3 years. You may double your money in next 3 years if you can remain invested here.
Okay, Anjali's got an interesting question, right? Hindustan Copper, she's bought it at levels of 152 and she would like to hold it for another couple of months, Kunal. And she's basing this trade on the interest in copper prices that we've seen, or rather copper that we've seen. Is this a good thesis, and how does it look on the charts? I'm asking because it's a 2-month call.
Specifically, I think for Hindustan Copper, Alex, I believe it's a good chart to really hold on, but I'm just concerned a bit on the timing front, because if it's very, very specific towards short term, what happens is when stocks, they move up in such a kind of a fashion. So for example, Hindustan Copper, I think if I'm not wrong, for the year-to-date returns have been 160%. Now after rising 160% in a matter of 3 or 4 months, it's possible that these stocks may take a bit of a pause, get back, go into a mean reversion mode, lose up some of the steam in which these stocks have rallied, and then get ready and get prepared for a much stronger upside in the longer term. So specifically from a 2-month trade, I don't believe that it's a good investment to really look at. I think if you are in for a longer term perspective, then I believe that you should use corrections which could probably come along the way for Hindustan Copper as good buying opportunities. The stock has given a very strong breakout in the long term chart. So I would just suggest that tweak your time frame rather than tweaking your investments on Hindustan Copper.
Oh, fair point there. And in fact, if you look at the longer term prospects for copper as well, with electrification and all of that, looks very positive. Parth has got a question on Eicher Motors, and Parth, I will take one stock at a time. I'll come back if I get more time on this. Eicher Motors, Ashish bought at levels of 2,347. This is a long-term bet on Eicher Motors. Should he hold on?
Actually, I suggest to exit from Eicher Motor because you are already in the money and making some profit. Because I'm not too optimistic as far as their sales growth is concerned. So my suggestion will be, why don't you look at stocks like Escort, which is typically more rural play. At the same time, even Mahindra, which is having complete gamut of automobile product. So in my view, these two stocks can outperform returns compared to Eicher Motor, even if you're having 1, 2, 3 year horizon.
Okay, an interesting question from Danny Verghese, and you know, this is something, Ashish, that a lot of people wonder, right? If you look at the paints and emulsions space, and Asian Paints is normally the pick that a lot of people tell you, despite the kind of valuations that it has. He's asking about Berger Paints as an alternative, and would you pick it at the current value, or would you go for a third option? Would you go for Kansai then?
So you ask me for paint segment, I like to remain with Asian Paint first. In my view, that there are very challenging time as far as paint industry is concerned nowadays because of this lockdown, etc. Things are not that good that you can sell your paint that easily. So Asian Paint being a market leader and you know, the kind of pricing power they are having, the kind of distribution reach they are having, they will continue to do well compared to other paint related stocks. So my suggestion will be right now to concentrate on Asian Paints.
Okay, let's pull up Steel Authority of India, right? And this is actually one of the counters that will likely be doing quite well today. You have Tata Steel and JSW Steel that were gaining significantly earlier in the day, up over 4%. Steel Authority is also gaining about 2.5%. And this is because of that conversation about China and the import duty on steel. But I'm going to come across to you on this one, Kunal, because we've got a question from Dharmendra. I believe that Dharmendra is holding Steel Authority of India Limited at levels of 80. So in the money at this point. Should he hold on based on what you're seeing on the charts?
Investments on Steel Authority of India, and I think even if the stock goes through a corrective phase, which I believe that many of these steel stocks, because there has been a spate of positive news flow. Now such positive news flow, they tend to attract a lot of individual buyers, and specifically the buyers who get more confident when these stocks, they tend to go into a stronger tizzy on the upside. But that's where generally short-term tops get formed. So if you're in from a longer-term haul, since you bought at a much at a phenomenal price of 80 odd rupees, I would believe that you should hold on to your investments over here. Be very patient over here. The metal cycle is going through a very strong multi-year turnaround, so you can reap a lot of benefit on the upside if you hold it from a longer-term perspective. So I would suggest a hold on sales specifically, and would suggest a time frame of at least 1 to 2 years on the upside.
All right, the next viewer query is coming from Raghupati. He's saying that he's holding City Union Bank 722 shares at 168.8. That's the average cost since 2017. He wants to know whether he should average this particular counter or if there is any other suggestion where he can move on to. And Kunal, I'll take this question to you.
So I think it's a good investment to I would say average. I think at 168 or 169. Where the stock is currently trading, I think it's a good level for you to look to average. I would sense that many of these private sector banks, they are going through a strong turnaround. City Union Bank somehow was one of the very silent and very strong performer mid cap in private sector bank. But somehow in the last 1 year post the COVID correction, the stock has lost a bit of its way. But I believe it's a matter of time. If you are in from a longer term haul, then I believe City Union Bank should be a good level to a good stock to hold on, and specifically a good level to average at current juncture.
Okay, let's go across to Ashish now. Ashish, coming to you on Tata Steel long products. We've got Shanmuga, who's bought 60 units at 835, and this is really a counter that took off after its earnings, right? Because of the kind of margin expansion that you saw, over 30%. What are the long-term prospects for this counter, though?
See, overall, I'm very bullish as far as steel sector is concerned on account of a few things. First of all, as there's ample liquidity in the system, so all governments are giving a lot of emphasis on infrastructure spending. Second, there's across the board demand, be it domestic or exports or from China. Everywhere, a lot of demand is coming now of steel products. So my suggestion will be, first of all, not to be in hurry to book profit in any of these steel stories as well, because this is not a bull run for one more month or two more months. This is going to continue for at least couple of more years. And by the time what will happen, these companies will repay even a lot of their debt and will be in much comfortable position. So my suggestion will be to remain invested in Tata Steel long. And another idea which I like to give, Tata Steel BSL is another stock which is slightly low price and even can be accumulated at this price.
All right, next viewer query is coming from Rajan Vittal, and this is particularly for you, Kunal. He's saying that he is holding 100 shares of L&T at 1,250 rupees per share for the past 1 year. He wants to know what's the future outlook looking like, and should he continue to hold on to this particular counter or should he exit?
I think you should hold on to your investments on L&T. It's been a top performer. Even though I specifically remember that the stock was a late starter in this last 12 month, 13 month rally for the markets. But nevertheless, I think it's covered significant grounds from being a stock which was, I think, at 750 or 800, if I'm not wrong, to a stock being at 1500, 1600 levels just about a couple of months back. I think tells that the impact of the stock on the overall market is quite significant. I believe that L&T is a stock which has signaled significant breakouts on the long-term prospects as well. And it's a stock which tends to give you almost 15 to 20% kind of a compounding return as well, has a very high correlation with Nifty 50 as well. So on all of those aspects, correlation, the compounding returns for L&T as well as the very stable nature of the trend, I would suggest to hold on L&T.
Okay, Ashish, coming to you on this next one, we've got Shubh Mathur, who's bought AU Small Finance Bank at levels of 1,178, looking for the long-term prospects.
Sorry, come again, which bank he has bought?
AU Small Finance Bank.
Okay, AU Small Finance Bank. So you can remain invested as far as AU Small Finance Bank is concerned. They have raised money also and much comfortable situation compared to other banks. And we have seen some good amount of rally also in these banks like Bandhan and AU and RBL, etc. So my suggestion will be to remain invested.
The next queries come from Fani Prasad, saying that he's bought RCF as well as NFL stocks 3 years ago. He's asking, is it worth holding for a 15% return for the next 1 year? Ashish, what's your take on both of these fertilizer counters?
See, fertilizer stocks are in their bull territory, bull zone territory, because again there are few reasons. First of all, like government has released whatever their holdback subsidies were there. So all these companies are having now ample liquidity. At the same time, all fertilizer plants also produces a lot of chemicals, and we all know the way chemical prices are moving in last 6 months. So companies like RCF and NFL, etc., they are going to really do well. So my suggestion will be to remain invested in this sector for next 1 year, because this is a sector which always used to run ahead of budget and always lie low. But this year they are going to see very robust set of their quarterly numbers and yearly numbers. So my suggestion will be to remain invested in all fertilizer stocks.
Okay, we've got a question from Adil Sheikh on HCL Tech, bought at levels of 950, wants to hold it for the long term. Ashish, now we've seen all the earnings and we've seen all the outlooks for the current financial year. What is your pick?
almost worst is getting priced in the 900 rupees in HCL Tech. If you see, stock has corrected from 1060 odd levels to current price, and like whatever earning related shocks were there, they are already absorbed in the price. So my suggestion will be to start accumulating this stock at 900 level gradually, because next quarter onwards we are again going to see some traction again building up in HCL Tech. So I'm expecting around 10% kind of return by the time their June quarter numbers will be out. So my suggestion will be to buy at 900.
All right, our next query is coming from SBS Money, saying that he has L&T Finance, he has 500 shares of this particular counter, wants to know what's the future prospect looking like for L&T Finance and whether he can continue to buy onto this particular counter. Kunal, what's your take on L&T Finance? Makes sense to add on to the stock?
It makes sense to add on to the stock. I believe that L&T Finance, in fact, many of these, NBFC, HFC stocks, they're looking quite attractive from a much more longer term perspective. Now, if you look at the relative underperformance, yes, L&T Finance has sort of underperformed major of its peers. But then, it's a matter of time. When the entire sector does pretty well, even the laggards or the tier 2 performers, they somehow, in some part of the trend, they also tend to cover up the underperformance, and they tend to get in line, with the market, with the market returns or with the sector returns overall. So I think purely on that aspect, I would believe L&T Finance has good prospects on the medium term to long term. I would suggest a hold as well as an average at current levels as well.
In the interest of the immediacy of this question, I'm going to come back to you on this one, Kunal. We've got Ritesh Garg asking about Reliance Industries. He's saying that there is a target for some brokerages, I think is what he means, at 2600. He's basically asking, is it still a good idea to buy a Reliance May 2100 call despite the uncertainty of local lockdowns in several places?
It's going to be tricky that Reliance would probably break past about 2100 in the month of May, because there is a lot of expectations. Now, when there is a lot of expectations, expectations generally get built up when there is positions which are built up on Reliance Industries. Now, the reason why the stock was underperforming since last 5-6 months, because it was at one point of time one of the most heavily owned in retail stock as well, when the stock was doing extremely well in the late or the second half of 2020. Now, because of that underperformance, or because of that huge deployment, the stock underperformed. I believe even now the stock traders have expectation that probably the stock will break past about 2100, 2120 level. It may not happen in a couple of weeks, but you have to try and increase your time horizon. I believe that these patches of underperformance, they are very short-lived, and whenever the stock tends to reset its underperformance, it tends to take out even the previous high. So look at it on a much more macro scale, I would believe, and I would expect 2300 plus as a position target for Reliance Industries. But for that, have a time frame of at least 3 months, if not more.
Viewer query is coming in from Sahil Mathur, Tech Mahindra. He has this particular counter. He bought it at 1000 rupees per share. He wants to know what's the outlook from medium to long term perspective. Ashish, what's your take coming in on Tech Mahindra? We just had the earnings also come a few days ago. So how does it look over the medium to long term?
Yes, again, this is the part of top 5 blue chip companies as far as IT and IT-enabled services are concerned. And post-result, we haven't seen any movement as far as the stock price is concerned. The stock is now consolidating at this price. But again, I am bullish as far as IT and ITES is concerned. So I'll recommend this to buy. And again, I'm expecting around 7 to 10% kind of upside by the time the next quarterly number comes. And again, the way IT stocks are moving in US markets, sooner or later, Tech Mahindra, HCL Tech, they have to also join the bandwagon. So my suggestion will be to buy this stock.
It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to the both of you. Thank you so much for taking the time and for answering all the questions that you did. And to all the viewers that have tuned in live on YouTube and the various social media platforms that we're on, thank you so much for participating. We'll be back tomorrow and we'll take more queries. We're slipping into a short break. We've got more on the other side, so do stay tuned.
Marico powered by Century Ply. आग से बचाए.